tonight. McKnight tonight.
Wrong again.
McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight.
I've seen that since university.
Funny, insightful interviews from a Washington to some McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. Here comes McKnight tonight.
Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Now, here's Rob McKnight.
Hello, good evening. It's Tipsy Thursday, the 18th of September. And yes, I am still alive after that moment on last night's show. In case you missed it, I didn't think I'd make it through the night alive when this happened. Jasmine! Stop it! Oh, I hit Amanda! Oh, Jesus! No! I'll drink to the fact I'm still alive. And you know how it was described here on the script, the out cue? We put out cues. We put the runtime and out cues on clips. The out cue was whimpering. Rob whimpering. Are we okay, Amanda? Yeah. Yeah, all good. And did you know today is National Cheeseburger Day? Yep. The perfect excuse to smash a burger and call it celebrating a holiday, Amanda. That's what we should have given the kids. Now, while you chew on that, I've got one small request. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and give this video a thumbs up. It makes a huge difference to the algorithm, helps us keep growing McKnight Tonight. And you can even hype the videos on the page if you see that function, which I believe is just on mobile. Just go to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. That's youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. All right, it is a big show to end the week. Coming up tonight, American late night host Jimmy Kimmel is sensationally axed from the air after a monologue that sparked outrage in Magaland. K-mart busted by the Privacy Commissioner for secretly scanning shoppers' faces. The great Aussie pub shout is under threat as the cost of living crisis takes another bite. And later, we'll revisit Australia's most famous UFO sighting with Westall witness Joy Clark and researcher Grant Levac. All that and plenty more coming up in this edition of McKnight Tonight. All right, let's get into our hot topics. And I simply can't go past the sacking of American late night host Jimmy Kimmel. I am genuinely in shock tonight as a country that seems to value free speech thinks it's okay for him to be sacked, especially considering I really am struggling to understand what he said that was a sackable offence. Here's the fact. What he said isn't a sackable offence, but this is the new America. And just so we understand, because I watched the news services tonight and they reported it that he was sacked for these comments. He wasn't sacked for these comments. This has been part of a campaign and they really misconstrued why ABC made the decision they did. So I'm going to take you through all of it, the timeline, so that you actually understand what happened. Here's the part of Kimmel's monologue from Monday night that led to this extraordinary sequence of events.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
That sent MAGA into meltdown, basically. And what happened, he's not right. There's claims and counterclaims. So at first, MAGA tried to label this guy as being on the hard left, but before that, he was a known conservative. And it does seem his views have changed, but we we won't know. Until the police investigation has happened, until it's all come out in a court of law, we don't know which side of politics he was on. But it actually doesn't matter. So I think Kimmel made a mistake there trying to pin him on MAGA and a conservative hard right. And it's this blame game that's going on. Well, your side killed this person, your side killed this person. The fact that people are killed is the problem. Now, Kimmel, to give him credit, actually was very sympathetic to the death of Charlie Kirk, and actually did monologues about it. So how did we get here? It's so weird to think that Kimmel lost his job over this, especially when a comment like this on Fox News is deemed fine.
Billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right. I would say this. We're not voting for the right people. In North Carolina, wake up.
Jesus. Now, I just asked, how did we get here? Well, let me break it down for you. After the comments went to air on Monday night by Kimmel, I mentioned MAGAland went into meltdown. But here's where it all started ramping up. Brendan Carr, the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, went onto a podcast and issued a chilling threat.
But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
That's scary stuff. This is the guy who controls broadcasting licenses. Now, he's very close with Trump, and he is making political decisions. And can I explain why the threat from Carr is very worrying? This is the First Amendment of the US Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. America takes that and its constitutional amendments so seriously. This is why the whole cancel culture that's going on there at the moment blows my mind. So, we've had the FCC chairman make that threatening response. And according to the reporting by Oliver Darcy on the Status website, Carr's appearance set off an immediate cascade of events inside ABC. According to people familiar with the matter, the network held a series of emergency meetings to discuss how to respond. Kimmel wanted to address the situation on his program Wednesday night. In fact, I'm told that he had even written a script about how he could respond to the controversy, but ultimately Disney brass wasn't comfortable with it. And then things came to a head when ABC affiliate Nexstar issued a statement saying they would take Kimmel off the air. President of Nexstar's broadcasting division, Andrew Alford, said, Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located. Continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, and we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move toward the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. Now, Charlie Kirk was all about freedom of political opinion and discussion. His whole podcasting empire was built on those debates that he had. And let's be honest, the issue isn't what Kimmel said about Kirk or the alleged murderer of Kirk. It's about his mockery of Trump and how Trump, when asked about how he was feeling about Kirk, got distracted with his ballroom. So we've had these moments. And then it happened. ABC issued a 7-word statement. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely. And as you can imagine, that news was met with glee by President Trump, who posted, "Great news for America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel show is cancelled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. President D-Day T. Donald J. Trump." There's no doubt the cancellation of Stephen Colbert and now Jimmy Kimmel will be celebrated by conservative voices. But it's dangerous. I don't understand why the president can't just ignore it. But he can't. He watches it all. He takes it all in. And he does not like people who don't like him. I think Disney have a lot to answer for. Now, Nexstar, they are in the middle of trying to acquire more television stations, and so they need FCC approval. So this is seen as capitulation by them. Disney paid off Donald Trump with a frivolous lawsuit when he accused ABC's George Stephanopoulos of defaming him. And so Disney paid the money, and they thought that'd be the end of it. But it's not. Trump will keep going hard. He's put in a $15 billion claim against against the New York Times over reporting that seems factual. He's put a lawsuit in against the Wall Street Journal. Donald Trump tries to hit them where it hurts. And these companies capitulate because they need his government agencies to approve and not make life hard. But when you give in to a bully, they keep coming back. And so because these companies keep kowtowing to him, he's just going to go further and further until everything he dislikes is off the air. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section of this video. And I've got to tell you, I was really disappointed with the way the news services tonight covered that story. It was just so basic, and they basically didn't get the nuance of it. And maybe they can't do that. Maybe that's why you need to watch McKnight tonight to get the nuance of a story. I will take you through it. I will explain it all. You'll be right with McKnight, Amanda. All right. Let's move on, because Kmart has been put in the naughty corner tonight after the Privacy Commissioner ruled the retailer breached privacy laws by secretly using facial recognition technology on customers. Biometric scans were taken as people walked into stores, and according to the Commissioner, that was disproportionate and without consent. Kmart says the technology was used to target refund fraud and it might appeal the ruling. I've got to say, I don't have a problem with these stores using facial recognition technology. You are in public. You are in their premises. And so don't they have the right? You know, I think the only mistake they probably made was not putting a sign up saying we use facial recognition technology. You give consent by walking into this store. It's exactly what they do when they film border security at the airport. They don't go asking everyone, do you mind if we put you on national TV having a drug search and being found guilty? No, they literally just put up signs saying you will be filmed in these premises. You don't have a choice. So, Kmart, I mean, do I have to do everything in this world? Like, do I have to be the lawyer for Kmart as well? Literally get a lawyer, build a sign, put it on the front. You'll be right. Unfortunately, you've been found guilty and you're not allowed to do it for a while. But the fact is, there are reasons that companies are using facial recognition technology. You might remember back in November, Bunnings was found to have breached privacy laws by using the technology. The managing director of Bunnings explained why they were using this tech.
We can't emphasize it.
It's so weird. You know, Amanda and I were talking the other day about what does the world come to when you have to have shops with signs up because of violence against shoppers. It's not just Bunnings. Look at this footage Woolworths released the other week. They are literally, look, a woman pulls out a knife so that she doesn't get her shopping checked. This one I found really shocking. A woman just gets punched in the face. In what world is this okay? So I am all for these companies having facial recognition technology so they can stop these people before they get into the store. Oh, you put a knife out on our people? We remember you. Out you go. You're not welcome here. This kind of stuff is absolutely outrageous. And I do believe if you walk onto their property, we have cameras there. And I'm a big privacy advocate. Anyone who's watched McKnight to know knows that I don't want the government going through my emails or full access to my browsing history or whatever. I'm big on privacy. But if you go into these stores, you have to give up some rights. And I don't think facial recognition technology is a problem in these instances, especially when this kind of crap is going on with people. So, shopping centres. It seems to me, judging by what the Privacy Commissioner has said about consent, literally just put the sign up. We use facial recognition technology. By entering our premises, you give consent. Problem solved. I'm here for you, people.
Here comes McKnight tonight.
Well, if you thought I had ranted enough, well, get ready. It's that time of night. It's time for a rant, but not just any old rant, a Rob's rant. And it seems beloved Aussie pub culture is in retreat. Once shouting around was as natural as meeting mates for a beer. But today, rising costs are making our most generous tradition unaffordable for too many, according to news.com.au. Alcohol prices alone have risen about 6% in the last year. A round of drinks for a few friends now often tops $60, and that's no small pour. You know, people used to talk about the pub shout as a rite of friendship. Now it's feeling like a line item that people just can't afford. And I've got to say, I've never been a fan of the round because it never evens out, and I always worry that people are paying for. What if someone buys me a drink? And I want to buy it back for them, but I'm off. I'm going somewhere. And I'm like, no, I you know. And then if you don't want to take part in the round, you're seeing, oh, he's one of those tired asses. And and there's always someone who tries to get it for free. I'm not a fan of it. So I'm actually not going to be sad if it goes. And it's always that thing too. You turn up to an event and you're like, see someone there and you go, oh, can I buy you a drink? Yeah. And then they realize they've got to buy you a drink. Then you realize you've got to buy, and you're stuck together for the whole thing, which is fine. They're great. But maybe you didn't go to be with them at that event. And it's just too hard. It's just too much. I mean, the round, I've never understood it. And what if, you know, I love a wine, but can I get a wine if you're buying because you're getting a beer? And all of a sudden, instead of paying a few bucks for a beer, you're now having to pay for a wine or a bourbon. And now, can I order that bourbon because you're only getting a beer? And when I buy you the round, I'm getting off cheaper. And so, oh, my God, it does my head in. Can I buy you a drink, Amanda? Anyway, I've got another surprise for you. I've got another rant tonight. It's a double banger rant. Ring the bell. Amanda, you better roll the sting again. Oh, we're in for a big one. I am so sick of politicians going on TV and telling us how voters feel about subjects. No, it happened again today on Afternoon Briefing with Greens leader Larissa Waters.
The Prime Minister and the government have really backed the wrong horse today, and the Australian public feel that betrayal deeply, and they won't forget it.
Is that how we feel? How the hell do you know how the Australian public feels about any issue, let alone the issue you're talking about today, which was the government's detail on net zero? How do you know? There's been no polls run. It was announced at this morning or around lunchtime. Probably this morning, I think, around 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. The PM went live. This lady is on this afternoon. There's been no polling. There's been no studies on how Australia feels about this announcement. You can say, I don't support this announcement. I represent the Greens, and as a policy, we don't support it. But don't tell me that Australia won't forgive the Prime Minister. They don't like this. You don't know what we like. It's just bullshit, and it's all sides of politics. You have no idea how the electorate feels. You could turn around tomorrow. There could be a news poll that says Australians love what the government announced today. Unlikely as it is. But you don't know. And it's just bullshit. You don't have a clue. So shut the F up and stop claiming. Oh, I got a shake of the head from Amanda there. I didn't say the word. Shut up and stop telling us what you are determining Australia feels. There's plenty of other ways to make your argument. Roll the sting, Amanda. You told me I'm not allowed to drink on air. She said we're desperate. I had a lot to get off my chest today. All right. We will take a moment. Feedback's coming up in a moment, dear viewer. And we'll, seriously, I've got a good story. You might remember Westall, over 200 students saw not just one UFO, multiple UFOs. I've got one of those students here tonight and a researcher who's been looking into the whole thing. It's a fascinating story. And whatever you believe about UFOs, 200 people saw something that day in April 1966. So I'll be getting to that shortly. Your feedback as well. But first, let's chill ourselves and find out where we're going on our random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You'll never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
And now let's take a moment to look beyond home. This is beautiful Mount Kilimanjaro as seen from Moshi, Tanzania. Towering at nearly 6,000 metres above sea level, Kilimanjaro is Africa's highest mountain, an iconic symbol of majesty, endurance and incredible landscapes. And wouldn't it be nice if we could see it? Because it's covered by the mist. In fact, from the mist-topped summit to the lush forest at its base, you can almost feel the crisp air and the peace of being somewhere far removed from the constant buzz. But we ain't seeing it tonight, are we? I did see the shot earlier, and it's right there. There's a nice mountain. Mount Kilimanjaro is right there. But you can't see it. Weather-wise, it's a cloudy day with a temperature range of 18 to 27 degrees. But for those trekking up Mount Kilimanjaro, and I'm sure that's a lot of viewers of McKnight tonight, you can expect rain with a high of 10 degrees after a low of 7. Let's roll the feedback. Own your own crazy. What kept you, Rob? Couldn't find a bottle opener. Oh, yes, we came in a little bit late tonight. There was a little problem with the YouTube feed. So, yeah, that happened. Beck says, so did Amanda put you in the doghouse or did she just not buy you your favourite wine? Yes, it's not a good... No, actually, it's a nice one, actually. No, she's all right. She's got a good sense of humour, that one. We've got this one from Own Your Crazy. Where's Amanda's microphone? I know you keep asking for the microphone. We'll get it sorted at some point. Dylan says, happy Tipsy Thursday. Now, moving on to the world of Trump, and Own Your Crazy says authoritarianism is taking over. Beck says the whole world is in shock, mate. He didn't even get to say goodbye. That's about Jimmy Kimmel being sacked. Although that's very television. Restoration Archive has taken issue with me. That's rubbish, Rob. Where have you been hiding? I think that's in relation to me saying that we don't know the true motives of the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk, and I stand by that. We are getting a lot of information. There's information from his parents about him moving to the left and also of the flatmate that is believed to be his partner and transgender. There's a lot to come out of this and a lot that needs... Stuff is being released to the media, but we won't have a full picture until it goes through the court process and it's determined by a court of law. And that's why I think Jimmy Kimmel was stupid to say that it was MAGA. He was trying to, and when he said that, it was before we knew the more details that we now know, but he was trying to make the point that MAGA were just saying these things and trying to make it left. I don't care which side of politics they're on. I just really don't. This person, if this is the person who did it, then chuck the book at them. I don't care if they're left, right, middle, hard left, hard right. They are a disgrace. All right. Restoration Archive again. I think outright lies and insulting the president from a late-night national TV program. Yes, I assume in sacking, but that's not the job of people in power, of politicians, to determine what we can and can't see on TV. I absolutely hated it. When John Howard, and there was the whole turkey slap on Big Brother that happened at like 2 o'clock in the morning, only on a live stream, was never broadcast, and John Howard was demanding Big Brother be banned. No, you don't have that power just because you don't like a show. I hate that kind of politics. Own Your Crazy says, next on the chopping block, Jimmy Fallon. Dylan says, I think you'll find these shows simply cost too much for the time slot and the advertising dollars are not there. Yes, but that's not the case here. This has nothing to do with that. So there may be truth in that, and they're saying that's why Colbert got cancelled, but I don't know that I'm buying that. Beck says, I know that we have different views, but we still respect each other and have to agree to disagree. Handshake. And that is so true, Beck. And that's what we do on McKnight Tonight. Own Your Crazy says, just because you don't like late night US TV doesn't mean they should axe all the shows. Yes, couldn't agree more. I'm quickly going through. Oh, Gavin says, because I was giving Kmart legal advice, he says, better call Rob instead of better call Saul. Own Your Crazy says, IGA stores face closure because of violence. Dylan says, regarding the face recognition technology, I agree. If it keeps people safe and gets these people caught, go for it. Here we go. Own Your Crazy says, here we go again. Time to give the baby his bottle. It's Rob's rant. Radio Notes Podcast says, we did jugses around. Everyone bought one jug each. That's it. Simple. Yes, I think that's smart. Dylan makes a good point. Who's shouting around for Tipsy Thursday this week? And because I did a double Rob's rant, Restoration Archive says, better be a double back-end quickie then. And Nicole makes the point, double dummy spit. Yay. Thank you for all your feedback. Really appreciate it. Keep it coming through. I will get to more a little later in this edition of McKnight Tonight. Okay, in April 1966, more than 200 students and teachers in Melbourne's suburb of Westall claimed to have witnessed a flying saucer hovering over a schoolyard before it sped away. Nearly 60 years later, it remains Australia's most famous mass UFO sighting. Tonight, I'm joined by Joy Clark, one of the students who saw the object that day, and researcher Grant Levac, who has been documenting witness accounts and calling for government transparency on the incident. Joy and Grant, welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Thank you.
Many thanks for having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Joy, you were just 12 on that day in 1966. I think this picture we have of you is at the same location sometime after the event. What did you see, and what was the reaction among students and teachers that day?
What was the reaction? Well, my reaction was absolute. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I saw 3, not 1. And so did some of the other kids, and some only saw 2 and some only saw 1. It depended on where you were on the day. And because we were all, some were outside on the playing field, some were the other side of the school. The teachers I was in science class, and our teacher Mr. Greenwood said to us that we couldn't go out until the bell rang. So we had to wait because the student had run in and flung the door open and said, Mr. Greenwood, there's flying saucers in the sky, there's things in the sky. And, of course, we all started laughing. And he said, and then we started to get really restless, and because we wanted to go and have a look. So, but he wouldn't let us go until the bell rang for the morning.
So you saw 3. And obviously people have said, oh, these could have just been weather balloons. I'm assuming you don't believe that.
Oh, God, no. Not with it, not the way they moved, the way they looked, everything that happened after that. For why in heaven's name would we have Army, Air Force, men in black suits, police, and all told to be quiet and shut up and don't talk about it? We had Channel 9 there as well. Don't talk about it or else you will get, don't speak to the media. You're all massively hysterical. Just, button up.
So you were warned, you were told to stay silent about what you saw.
Absolutely. We were quite, in a way, it was quite bullying because our principal, Mr. Zambleby, he ruled with an iron fist. He was a really tough, no, he did. He was a really tough principal.
I know the type, that's why I laugh.
Yeah, if you stepped out of line, you paid the price. And I paid the price, so I got detention because I was interviewed by Channel 9. So there you go.
Whatever happened to that footage?
Oh, yes. It went missing like everything else. Yeah, it went to wherever it went to. Rumour has it, and it's only been rumour, that Sir Kerry Packer, who was running Channel 9, had at that stage, this is only a rumour, had asked for that film to be sent to Sydney. So, whether that happened, I don't know.
Well, Grant, there's long been talk of a cover-up. What evidence do you have? What have you found suggesting authorities did try to suppress the story?
Yeah, well, so it's a good question. I mean, many researchers, lead researcher on the Westall incident, Shane Ryan, who's uncovered almost upwards of 200 witnesses thus far, Keith Basterfield, Bill Chalker, Ross Coulthart, myself, we've all tried to secure for release through Freedom of Information, as well as the National Archives of Australia, documentary evidence that would provide some explanation on what Joy and her fellow students and teachers and other individuals that weren't even on site at the school, what they observed in the sky above Westall High School on that day. And what's so incredibly frustrating for not just the primary witnesses, but researchers like myself, is there's never been any explanation or documentary evidence provided by the Australian government at a federal, state or local level, or the Australian Department of Defence, as to what it was that was observed on the 6th of April 1966. And to Joy's point, there has never been any explanation provided as to why there was a rapid response of military personnel on the day, why there was confiscation of evidence. I believe, Joy, you've talked about in the past, the other teacher, Barbara Robbins, who was reported that she took a photograph or several photographs on a still camera. That was confiscated. Why?
Okay, so there was actual physical evidence.
Yeah,
that's been reported, yes, and that was confiscated.
Why does this sighting stand out compared to other UFO reports in Australia?
Daytime.
Well, because and the fact that you have so many people, so many students, teachers, adults, as well as there was a market gardener, Paul Smith, who was 16 years of age at the time, who was not on site at the school, but in the adjacent market gardens. So many folks saw something in the sky above Westall High School that they could not explain or readily reconcile. And many have commented that it resembled the shape of a flying saucer. And Joy mentioned she saw 3, others saw 1, again, all depending on where they were positioned. And again, there's never been any explanation provided by the Australian government as to what it was. And it's not just the fact that there was a rapid response of military personnel and confiscation of evidence. It was also the fact that there was witness intimidation. Joy mentioned that they were told to shut up about it. And that was also true of Andrew Greenwood, who had 2 men rock up to his residence unannounced, unwelcomed, knock on his door, and one was in a military attire and the other was in civil attire, essentially threaten him and say, if you talk about what it is you saw, it'll be very easy for your co-workers and colleagues to believe that you were drunk on the day of the incident. And the big one for me as a researcher is there was a comprehensive report that was compiled by the then Department of Supply, which is now defunct, which has never seen the light of day. So if it was something prosaic, I don't know what it was, but if it was something prosaic, well, why after 60 years has the Australian government not come clean, been transparent and provided the witnesses with answers for what it is that they saw and what they've lived with for 60 years?
Yeah. Joy, researcher Bill Chalker, he had this picture made up. Let me show it to you. It's a forensic drawing depicting the evidence of fellow student Victor Zachary. Does this match up? Now, I know you said 3, there's only 2 depicted here, but what you're seeing here, does that match up with what you remember seeing?
Very similar. Yeah, the hump in the middle, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Which is
Very
the
similar.
traditional, when we think of flying saucers, that is the traditional idea and image we have in our heads of those.
That's right. That's
Joy,
right. Yeah, they
do you
look
believe
like
you
a
had an
cou-
encounter with aliens?
No. No. And I have never spoken to any of the other witnesses or whatever either who have said that. We all, the ones that I have contact with and we have seen over the years, have all said the same thing, that what we saw it, but no, we didn't see any evidence of it. But something was controlling them. It would have had to have been the way they were moving and going from, one thing to another. And yeah, no.
No, but I guess I'm asking, I know you didn't meet aliens, but what I'm asking is, do you think these ships were of alien,
Yes.
were they powered by aliens?
Yes, I do. Because just the way that they move, that's my personal opinion.
Of course.
I honestly do, because of the way they moved, the way they just hung in the air, hovered, moved over. When the light aircraft flew over from the local airport, because Moorabbin Airport was down, and they buzzed them, they were playing a game with them. It was incredible. It was like cat and mouse. The craft would be right in front of them, and next thing they were up in the air over the other side and back again. And it was just amazing things to watch. It was incredible.
Grant, it is interesting. I saw a image the other day on social media depicting where all the UFO sightings have been. In America, North America was sort of lit up like everywhere. But in Australia, it's not as common. And you usually don't find so many people who have witnessed an event. The thing that strikes me about this, and I'll be honest, I don't know what to believe, but the thing that strikes me is 200 people certainly saw something. Everything you've researched, what do you think it was?
So it was either something that was prosaic of this planet. It has been proposed, it's been a hypothesis has been put forth that it was some top secret project.
But we still don't have things that move like that today.
No, that's right. And that's why I'm saying if it was something that was top secret that the Australian government and the Australian Department of Defence did not want the Australian public and or its foreign adversaries to be aware of, well, then that's been put forward as a plausible explanation for what occurred on that day. Now, again, what's frustrating for me is there's been no documentary evidence ever presented to support that hypothesis. So that's why I have called for the Australian government via a petition to launch an independent inquiry and provide not just the witnesses with answers for what they saw on the day, but also release this comprehensive report that was authored by the Department of Supply, so the truth can be the truth can be revealed. Now, if the Australian Department of Defence is not able to locate or release that comprehensive report from the Department of Supply, well, there's a compelling reason for the current Australian Department of Defence and Royal Australian Air Force to devote resources to the investigation of what we now call UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, colloquially known as UFOs.
I always love it when they change the terms that we've used for decades.
It's frustrating. It is frustrating. And there's a lot of baggage that comes with the vernacular of UFO. But what's interesting to note, the acronym UAP is not new. It's actually been around since the 1950s and appears in documents in the National Archives of Australia. So it was terminology that was used in Australia many decades ago. Now, in 1996, the Royal Australian Air Force, who for many decades was charged with investigating cases of, another term for you, unusual aerial sightings, UAS, that's what the Department of Defence called it back then, and Australia has almost as long as a history as the United States investigating this phenomenon. In 1996, the Australian Department of Defence, via the Royal Australian Air Force, cleaned its hands and said, move along, folks, nothing to see here. There is no scientific or other compelling reason for us to continue to devote resources to the investigation and reporting of UAP. That was 30 years ago. And look where we are 30 years later in 2025. In the US Congress just last week, Congress held its 6th hearing in just over 3 years on this issue of UAP and trying to better understand the national security threats and safety of flight risk that UAP pose. Because we've heard from Congress and the United States Department of Defense time and time again that UAP is not an issue that's isolated to the United States. And it's mind-boggling that Australia, closest ally of the United States, our positions on UAP could not be further apart. Australia is not taking this topic seriously and is essentially fobbing us off and saying it's a problem for the United States. We're all good. We know what's in our airspace, when I don't believe that's the case at all. And Westall is a classic example of that.
Well, something happened. Something happened. Joy, what do you and possibly the other people who witnessed this event want people to know about your experience?
Well, we want them to know that what we saw is true. It happened. It did happen. And I've had over the years lots of flack on and off about speaking about it, being accused of being drunk and on drugs and whatever else at 12 years old. My question to them, I say to them, look, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. Don't have a problem. You can, whatever else. But I'll ask you one question. Were you there? And they always say no. And I always say, well, I was, and I have it in my head. I can't get it out of my brain. It happened. We want an answer to what happened, and to people, someone in the know, to let us, to say to us, we know that happened that day. And that's basically, you know, what we want. We know what we saw, and it's a true story. And it was in the broad daylight, 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Joy.
And I would just say that it's unfortunate that there is such a degree of stigma and ridicule that still plagues this topic, this conversation, for now more than 80 years, that it's a real shame that folks like Joy and other primary witnesses have been ostracized and ridiculed for just coming forward and stating what they saw. There is nothing to gain from witnesses coming forward. In actual fact, they've got everything to lose because of the stigma and ridicule that's associated with the topic. And we've seen that in the halls of the Australian Department of Defence and the Australian government. Only a few years ago, Senator Peter Whish-Wilson, Green Senator, the only Australian senator to take this topic of UAP seriously to date and ask questions in Parliament before a Senate estimates, he asked the then Chief of Air Force, Air Marshal Robert Chipman, if he was aware of US training exercises being cancelled because of incursions by UAP. And Senator Penny Wong, our current Minister for Foreign Affairs, she interjected out loud and mid-question that Senator Whish-Wilson was asking, and says, is this a UFO question? Like it was beyond the committee to even entertain the notion that this should be just discussed. And unfortunately, that degree of ignorance and stigma is alive and well within the Australian government and the Australian Department of Defence.
Well, Joy and Grant, I hope we can get some transparency. It's been, 60 plus years since the event, or almost, next year's the 60th
years
anniversary.
Next April.
We're heading towards the 60th anniversary. We know that 200 people certainly saw something. It would be nice to get some answers. I really genuinely appreciate you both coming on the show tonight. Joy and Grant, thanks for joining us on McKnight Tonight.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Wow, fascinating stuff. Let's have a look at what feedback is coming through to McKnight Tonight. Gareth D says, McKnight Tonight should be on free-to-air and what 10 News Plus was supposed to be. Thoughtful analysis on a few big news items, not just endless headlines. And then he goes on to say this. Totally agreeing with Rob's take on everything today from Jimmy K to K-mart. Gareth, have I gone woke? You don't usually agree with me. Thanks for your feedback. You know I always appreciate it. Restoration Archive says, come on, Rob. If you go on TV and insulted Albo outside and talk crap, you would disappear too. No, I disagree. Well, if you do it on mainstream TV, because Australian mainstream TV has less of a backbone than American free-to-air TV. So you may have a point. That's why I love what we're doing in this space. I love what we're doing on YouTube because you can't be cancelled, essentially. You play within YouTube's rules. Everyone's on the same playing field and you're sweet if you do the right thing. I love it. Jeanette says, was listening through the car. Sounds like Rob had a lot to get off his chest tonight. I certainly did. Restoration Archive says, we have been visited. They wound down the window, looked down and went, yeah, no, screw that. That would not surprise me. But on a serious note regarding Westall, Restoration Archive says, our world has been sending radio signals out for 100 years. We have been visited and we will be again. And You're Crazy says, what was being covered up? What were people witness to? It looks and sounds like a cover-up. Beck says, I would want answers if I were you. And You're Crazy says, these people lived through something authorities wanted them to forget. I'm assuming. Sorry. Beck, now can we please discuss how glowing she is? I thought I saw a couple of notes from Beck about makeup. Come on, Beck. Dylan says, if we couldn't detect a warship in our waters, we definitely don't know about everything in our skies. Back on topic, Beck says, I believe you saw something and you have the right to speak up. Jeanette says, there are no documents because it was all destroyed. Everyone, thank you very much for your for viewing this week. It's been a big week, lots to discuss. I will be back next week for Monday, Wednesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. with McKnight Tonight and Tuesdays at 9 p.m. with Media McKnight. Thank you for all the feedback. I will, for those who have taken out a paid subscription to YouTube, I promise I will do a little tricky feed this week and it will happen, Amanda. Amanda's here this weekend. She's not away and she will make sure that I do it, won't you? She's a tyrant, everybody. You have no idea what I go through with this woman. No idea. No idea. Rapping. Sorry, mistress. All right, have a great week. We'll see you next week. It's good night from McKnight. Oh, liar.
McKnight tonight. It's good night.